price of gold shot up on Thursday and then it dropped right back down. Is that manipulation or just plain old volatility? Does it even really matter? We saw a $100 swing in the price of gold on Thursday. That is a 5% swing in a day. Those numbers don't even show up on the daily charts. If you were to try to look back, and that was February 24th, by the way, it just looks like gold lost a few dollars over the prior day. Now, if you were paying attention on that day, probably paying too much attention, you would have seen the price of gold shoot up $90 and then fall nearly $100. And I think the news outlets describe that as investors reassessing. Now, in the comments on a few of those last videos, people describe that as bank manipulation. A few even mentioned futures contracts and then the importance of the end of the month timing. So you can call that reassessing, you can call that manipulation, but it is always possible that there are large accounts influencing price movement. I don't dwell on spoofing, I don't dwell on manipulation, anything like that, because nothing's really changed there. But the thing that I've noticed over the past 2 years is that the markets don't really act the way that they did pre-pandemic. We've been seeing cases where bad news leads to a result that you'd expect, but then by the end of the day, there's a total reversal. CNBC doesn't even try to keep up with those swings. You'll see that they just update the headline of their top story throughout the day on the website. So it'll start off, it'll be Dow loses 200 points, then pretty soon it's Dow loses 400 points. Midday, Dow retraces, and then by the end of the day, Dow climbs 800 points. It's just too easy to trade. And in the case of gold, where the price is driven by trading, you might see prices shoot up immediately on bad news, and then by the end of the day, total reversal. It's just too easy. Now, investors are really just moving money. There are margin calls in play. Sometimes that forces investors out of positions, and then there's profit taking. And none of that applies or is really even relevant to physical metals unless you're panic buying from the online dealers while the bad news is playing out. The markets acting like they're drunk is not a new thing. The last 2 years have been really difficult to predict. And Thursday's swings still surprised me though. I thought that we would lose some of the day's spike, but not all of it. The news of the sanctions not blocking Russia's access to SWIFT was apparently enough to reverse the gains. I don't even remember what SWIFT stands for, something about interbank financial telecommunications, whatever the case, it basically would have cut them off from international banking capabilities. Iran got cut off in 2014. It's not good. And speaking of 2014, I went back and looked at the price movement of gold in February and March of 2014. That was during Russia's annexation of Crimea, just to see if it did what I remember it doing. Gold was trading around $1,250, $1,250, and then it shot up to $1,370 and then settled back down to $1,300. That was over the course of 2 months. We got similar movement this time around in a day. So there's a case to be made here for not watching spot price so closely. I almost think that that's the biggest takeaway here. But there is a clear interest here on YouTube on current events. I made a video about a permanent coin series that I've been particularly interested in, and then I made a video about current events, both in the same week, 2 days apart. The current events video got 6 times the views that the other one did. Now, so what, right? That's really not the driving factor in what I do here, but it does tell me what everyone is interested in. And I think a big part of that higher traffic is based on FOMO. It's based on anxiety, whatever you want to call it, interest in gold price, interest in when to buy, just not wanting to miss the boat. And I do get that. I get the anxiety, but really it shouldn't impact the typical physical gold buyer much. But when we're getting this much volatility, it's just hard to look away. And then sticking with this topic, at least the financial side of this topic, over the weekend we got news that sanctions against Russia will now be blocking access to SWIFT. So the volatility is definitely going to continue. But let's step back for a minute. The spot price of gold was below $1,800 a month ago. Prices had already shot up to $1,900 before Thursday's shakeup. So anything between $1,860 and 1916 is going to be normal support and resistance levels. Now, maybe we'll see prices outside of that band, but either way, we've already seen pretty significant gains in gold price. when most of us are probably more than happy with slow and steady gains over months and years rather than over days and weeks. So I'm expecting a wild week. It isn't affecting what I'm buying. I guess I know not to buy on rapid spikes, and I'm patient enough to wait, generally speaking. I did make a purchase this weekend. Spot was at $18.90, but that was more about the availability of a coin. JM Bullion has the 2022 Dragon from the Chinese Myths and Legends coin that was in stock. It's a favorite, so I picked another one up. The other part of this whole thing is that the situation itself is about so much more than the price of gold, the stock market, oil prices. There are a lot of people going through some serious stuff right now. That's my understatement for the week. So I'm going to try to keep the topics and the headlines in check, regardless of what I see in the channel statistics. This is not a news channel. I'm not here to cover human tragedy, but it just feels a little bit wrong to dwell on the financial side of the invasion. And there's a lot of that going on, but let me know what you think. Let's call it good there. This is where I say hit the like button, do all those things that help get the word out, but the comments are really the most interesting part to me. So let us know if you're buying. Let us know how closely you're watching spot price, and then whether or not that's doing anything to your buying plans. I hope you're well. I hope you're all safe. Thank you again for watching, and take care.